A few weeks back, for the first time in what felt like forever, thank you COVID-19, we headed into London to get our mitts on one of next year's most anticipated games, Dying Light 2 Stay Human. More importantly, we didn't just get to play it for a bit though, but actually had the chance to spend a significant amount of time with Dying Light 2 ahead of its February 2021 release. Having been immersed in the game's open world of the city, getting knee-deep in zombie guts for a solid 4 hours, here are 7 really cool things that we liked about the game. We've played so many choice and consequence games in our time that you could argue that we've developed a proper affinity for them. Yes folks, we are addicted. And for the most part, choice in video games usually fall into 2 camps. The good choices and the bad choices. Well folks, in Dying Light 2 things aren't really that straightforward. What we experienced during our hands-on featured plenty of shades of grey to ponder. The police faction is a little bit totalitarian, but does serve in keeping the peace, preventing trouble kicking off, while keeping people from starving to death. In fact, a few of them are quite nice guys actually. The survivors, on the other hand, are just people trying to live in the new dark ages, but there are some proper dicks and sadistic knobheads in their ranks. So who you choose to align with is not a matter of picking the good guys or the bad guys. It's never really that straightforward, and we are big fans of that. Choice and consequence aside, what also plays a massive role in who you side with in Dying Light 2 is the faction control system, and I've got to say, it's actually quite cool. When you have to make choices between factions throughout the game, you'll get actual tangible rewards that will aid you in your quest. It's not just a case of, oh hey, these people actually like you now. Should you side with the survivors, as we did during our hands-on, what that actually means from a gameplay perspective is that the region will now be safer from the onslaught of infected, and in areas controlled by the faction you sided with, will now be easier to traverse via an abundance of zip lines. If we'd have opted to side with the peacekeepers, rather than zip lines, you'd have car bomb traps placed around their occupied area. As you go through the game and side with different factions, those rewards change too. It's a bit like a tier system. For instance, the second tier of the survivors rewards places airbags in all survivor occupied zones to assist in your freerunning. Who you side with then will not only impact the story then, but it'll also have a series of gameplay rewards and other implications to boot. I don't know about anybody else, but when darkness rolled around in the original Dying Light, we definitely tried to not go outside. It was far too stressful and genuinely quite terrifying. In fact, we just go to sleep so we could mooch about in the daytime and avoid the nighttime where possible. For Dying Light 2 though, developer Techland has taken extra steps to ensure that players don't just hit the hay when darkness looms. Actually, in Dying Light 2, during the daytime, zombies will be hunkered down in buildings away from the sunlight, meaning you definitely don't want to be spending too much time indoors. At night, buildings are largely empty and players are free to explore them. It's actually the perfect time to head inside for some of those sweet, sweet rewards. They come in various forms, whether it's Dark Hollows, which houses valuables and old world money, or Forsaken Stores, where you'll be able to find rare crafting parts. Think of Dying Light 2 like I Am Legend. It's essentially the same. Don't go indoors during the day, stay away from the darkness, and don't go outdoors when darkness falls. Stick to the indoors. That added incentive to go exploring at night to see what the buildings around the city hold, what loot you can scoop up, what rewards you can seek out is a bit of a game changer in all honesty, and we've been assured by Techland that there are plenty of treats hidden away in the local buildings around the city, so the risks of going out at night now will likely net you with some just rewards. One of the major elements in Dying Light 2, according to the devs themselves, is that they tried to make the city more of a vertical playground than Haram was in the original game. It's safe to say that Techland have achieved that. The further you get into Dying Light 2, the more vertical things get, and as a result there's a slew of vertical puzzles and death-defying rooftop chases too. That's the one thing that the studio doesn't stress though, because the higher you are, the harder you fall. And that's very much apparent in the early game without the perks to improve your falling ability. But as you get further into the game and into the heart of the city, you'll net yourself a paraglider, and oh boy, not only do things get more vertical, but they also get a lot more fun. going from parkour acrobatics into a paraglide across a chasm to another rooftop again and again might just be the most fun you can possibly have in Dying Light 2. There are even huge air vents as well, which you can use to gain some altitude, so you can really traverse between the rooftops and some fairly tall buildings. I will add the caveat though that it will take a while to get used to, the verticality that is, as we found out numerous times during the game's opening hours. Ouch. What the city loses out on originality when it comes to its name, it makes up for in its diversity as a dense urban sprawl. Comprising a diverse selection of biomes and cool areas, Dying Light 2 provides plenty of wondrous places to discover and explore. Whether it's picking through abandoned stores, once populated apartment buildings, or even meandering around one of the large central survivor hubs situated in a large church. There's an incredible amount of greenery and plant life too, as well as bandit camps, swanky accommodation, rubbish tips, deadly radioactive chemical zones, wide open plazas, narrow dimly lit passageways, and that's before you even get into the heart of the city. It's in the city that you'll find places like abandoned substations, skyscrapers, construction sites, rooftop settlements, and so on. The city is actually shaping up to be a bit of a jewel in Dying Light 2's crown, and we can't wait to explore it even more this coming February. While the original Dying Light had certain aspects that bordered on RPG mechanics, Dying Light 2 goes one step further and actually ups the RPG ante. In the original game there are outfits, player perks, crafting and the like, but there wasn't really anything you'd associate with the level of depth you'd expect from an RPG. Dying Light 2 most certainly has genuine RPG mechanics. Players can now equip their character with various pieces of attire like gloves, boots, glasses, hats, each of which have their own stats boosts and bonuses, so you can effectively create different builds, whether you want to focus on health, stamina, combat proficiency and so forth. Weapon sockets make a return, but weapons now fall under tiers of rarity now with unique perks and stat boosts. And while there was crafting in the original, it seems slightly more in-depth and granular for the sequel. No longer will it only take common plants to craft a medkit. This time around you need to find honey and chamomile, found only on rooftops in the vicinity of orange-hued trees. The takeaway point is that everything in Dying Light 2 has more depth, meaning if you're a sucker for a good RPG mechanic like we are, you're gonna love the sequel. Despite all of the new RPG mechanics and so forth, Dying Light 2 very much feels like a Dying Light game. It's still all about busting out parkour moves across an open world and messing up some zombies in the process, regardless of the new mechanics. The new choice and consequence elements, the verticality of the city, the new faction system, the RPG aspects. Despite all of that new stuff, Dying Light 2 is still all about the parkour and crushing as many infected as you can. As such, you'll recognise numerous elements from the original making a comeback, things like bigger and more dangerous infected being one example. The zombie star system returns, and there's still a skill tree that determines your burgeoning parkour prowess, which increases as you play. If you're nervous that Dying Light 2 might be too much of an RPG for your liking, or that the verticality might shift the dynamics of the game too much, fear not. Dying Light 2 is first and foremost a Dying Light game, and that isn't lost amid the stack of new and ambitious mechanics. The sign of a good sequel is to take the pre-existing components of the original and flesh them out while retaining the soul of what made the original so loved. And in that regard, Dying Light 2 certainly seems to be shaping up to deliver on that promise. And there you have it folks, 7 really cool things we liked about our recent Dying Light 2 Stay Human hands-on session. Thanks for watching folks, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Cheers folks, goodbye.